is going on, everybody, man? King Recon here. First and foremost, I want to apologize for my voice. The weather is not doing your boy any good, but not even the weather is gonna stop me from talking about the best-selling manga in history, man. Especially with the greatness we're gonna be talking about today in celebration of the 50th episode of the Recon's Peace podcast, man. And I want to thank y'all from the bottom of my heart because this podcast series has given me the freedom and liberty to discuss concepts, topics, and ideas that I normally would not have been able to outside of this podcast series. And I thank y'all for giving me that freedom to be able to talk about so many different things, man. And I look forward to continuing this podcast series to talk about even more incredible things because I have a lot of ideas, man. I have a lot of ideas for other One Piece related topics that I can't wait to discuss in this type of manner. So thank y'all so much for the support and for allowing me to do that, man, because it's been a lot of fun. I really enjoy recording the Recon's Peace series because I could just speak from the soul and let everything else follow, you feel me? So I love this series and I'm looking forward to continuing it here in 2020, man. But today in particular, you know, I had been thinking after episode 49, what am I going to do? What is grandiose enough to put it in an episode 50 slot? And at the end of November, I was like, man, I might have to talk about my favorite chapters of the decade. But I was like, you know what, I'm going to wait. Because I feel like, because we were in the middle of the Odin flashback at that point in time, I was like, dog, I have a feeling some greatness is about to follow. And boy, oh boy, am I so glad I waited. Because if I had recorded that video in November, I would not have been able to talk about the legendary stuff that happened within within last month in December, right? I mean, by God, 2 of those chapters are Chapter of the Year contenders. One of them, which is, I like to call it the transitionary chapter, because that chapter came out in 2019 and in 2020, technically, right? At least for a majority of people came out in 2019, and for another majority came out in 2020. It's like the Call of Duty Ghosts era, where people are transitioning from the Xbox 360 PS3 era to the PS4 Xbox One era. That is an Xbox 360 game and an Xbox One game. Now, One Piece Chapter 967 is a 2019 chapter and a 2020 chapter. That's the way I'm looking at it, right? And because it is considered a 2019 chapter, it is without question on this favorite chapters of the decade list, because that chapter, and listen to me, I cannot wait to do my afterthoughts on that, man, but I gotta record this first, bro. This is something I've been looking forward to doing for a long time, but that one, ooh, bro, that chapter was so good. So we're gonna be talking about that here in a little bit, but let me first tell y'all how I'm gonna do this when it comes to the way that I'm gonna talk about my favorite chapters within this decade, because there was so many chapters. I went back and I tried to bring it down to as many as possible. These volumes contain my favorite chapters of this decade. Of course, I can't hold it on my hand. Volumes 91 and 92 also belong on here as well, but I couldn't hold them in my hand. So I was like, you know what? This is what I have, and then 91 and 92 are back there as well. But those volumes contain my favorite chapters in the decade, in the last decade that we just had. So I decided to go about it in this way. I'm going to go through each individual year. I'm going to go from 2010 to 2019 and talk about my favorite chapters within each year. However, in every single year, I have a solidified chapter of the year. Do you know how hard it was to do that, man? To go through each year and have just one chapter of the year. And some years it was easy. Some years I was like, it's that one. Other years, I was sweating. I still am. I still am sweating, son. When I tell you that some years, that is why I decided doing this format, because there's some years there has to be some honorable mentions. There absolutely has to be some honorable mentions, man. And the first year we're going to be discussing has a lot of those, man. Has about 6 honorable mentions, man. Let's dive into 2010. 2010 arguably has 5 of like my top 15 favorite chapters in all of One Piece. 2010 has some legendary stuff, man. End of Marineford, post Marineford, return to Sabaody, beginning of Fishman Island. 2010 was stacked. 2010 was stacked. It has arguably my favorite chapter in the series. It's 1, 2, or 3. At latest is going as 3, but I think it's my number 1, and I gotta go back and think. It's probably number 2. I gotta think about it, man, because there's this one particular chapter in Jaya that's always gonna have a special place in my heart. So that's, anyways, 2010's honorable mentions, man. Now, in 2010, towards the beginning, I believe it was February 15th, of that year, or the 8th, I think it was the 15th, we had one of the biggest and most, I mean, the magnitude of this moment was so huge that it rumbled throughout the community, even to people that aren't One Piece fans. I always call this event the event that shook the entire anime world, to the point that some people know this series just based on this moment. That is how huge this moment is, alright? The previous chapter finished off with Akainu putting his fist through Ace's chest. Now, after the entire 1.5 year period that we spent through Impel Down and Marineford of trying to save him, there is no way in the Flying Flagnards that I was thinking that this man was about to die. Even whenever I saw this title, there was no way. I was like, bro, there's no way. You know how many fake outs we have in the series so far? There is not a single character, aside from the Going Merry, that is close to us that has died. And so whenever I saw this in present time, not a flashback character, in present time, the fact that Ace could possibly die, and even while I was reading the chapter, I was like, no, this can't be possible. Whenever I saw this legendary scene right here with Garp, like, yo, you better hold me back, dog, or I'm gonna pwn Sakazuki, bro. I was like, yo, Garp, pwn him. I've been waiting the whole arc. And so, you know, you have Marco and Vista rushing him, but then you get to Ace's final words, man, and it doesn't matter how many times I read this. This is why I'm not gonna read it. I refuse to read it. That it always gets me. It doesn't matter if I read it in the manga, if I watch it in the anime in dub or in sub, or if I watch it in a video game cutscene, it always hits home, man, because it's Ace, bro. It's the GOAT. It's Goldie Ace, bruh. And then one of the most iconic panels in the entire series, Thank You for Loving Me. And, you know, that entire moment right there just encapsulates his entire character arc so beautifully. And I'm so glad that those were his final words. Because it was a wonderful send-off by Oda, for his character arc, and I'll always love Ace, man. Forever one of my favorite characters, and forever one of the GOATs. And I feel like Ace, for me, just continues to grow for me in my love for his character as time goes on, because I feel like the older I get, the more I can appreciate the themes and concepts that went into his character arc. And especially in these recent years, I've really come to love his character more than I ever have before in the past. So shout out to Ace, man. Chapter 574, without question, one of my honorable mentions for favorite chapters of 2010. Now, coming up next is the chapter that I talked about many different times on this channel. It is the go-to chapter to talk about whenever the series was on break back on the old channel. And I think I even talked about it here on this channel as well. This is the legendary chapter 576, The Great Pirate Edward Newgate, man. Now, this to me is without question one of the most iconic moments in One Piece, and it's all thanks to, number one, the moment that takes place towards the end of this chapter, but number two, thanks to my boy King of Lightning, dog. Because King of Lightning is one of the biggest One Piece YouTubers, and the fact that every single one of his videos starts off with the One Piece Swajitsu Zaisuru, all of us have become, you know, attached to this moment to far beyond just the reaches of the anime. You know, it has become One Piece itself. That moment, you know what I'm saying? So the fact that he confirmed that the One Piece does exist, and Whitebeard goes off in one of the most epic and incredible deaths that I've ever seen, man. With this legendary final page, bro, when the narrator is speaking. When I first read the words from the narrator, I had chills. Every time I watch that scene and the narrator starts talking about Edward Newgate, dude, I get extreme chills. You have the incredible flashback sequence. Where is it? With Roger, bro. Like, dude, look at it. With Roger and Whitebeard, man, you wanna know what the Will of D is, dog? I'll tell you, like, amazing chapter. And then when it comes to Whitebeard, you know, what is it that you want? My dog said a family. That's all he wanted, man, and he never ran away, dog. Like, Whitebeard greatness. So that one for sure is another honorable mention. That one was really, really close to taking the spot for my favorite chapter of the year. But like I said, it's because it's 598, man. If it wasn't 598, it would most certainly be. Now this next one is 2 chapters in one, but y'all know I talk about this moment every single time we get a Santa Hat level chapter. This to me is the Santa Hat level chapter. If there is a chapter I have a scale on what it is that I consider a Santa Hat level chapter to the max, it is this chapter's right here. It is chapters 579 and 580. Shanks. Bro, this is without question, if it's not the most hype moment I've ever witnessed in this manga, it is one of the most hype moments without question. have reread and rewatched this moment in the anime and reread in the manga a billion times. Dog, when you turn the page after Kobe's speech and you see the legend himself there, like Khan said, Shanks, where were you 10 episodes ago? Bro, because this was the very last thing any one of us was expecting. I mean, Whitebeard just died. Ace had just died. Blackbeard is going on and on a tear. He's on a power high. It's like, what's gonna happen, bro? Luffy's out of commission. Everyone's getting rocked. The remnants of the Whitebeard pirates are what are they gonna do? They're gonna fight the world government? Like, what's going on? And you have Kobe out here delivering a speech of legend. I was like, bro, what are we doing here, Oda? And at the end of the chapter, we get Shanks. I'm like, yeah. Bro, and one of the greatest... I have watched this scene in the anime. Yo, my man pulls out the gun. Kizaru, don't move. Oh, man, back my Shanks goes over, picks up the hat. I've come to end this war, to be continued. It's legendary, bro. It's Shanks. What more needs to be said, bro? Like, yo, I'm telling you, anytime Shanks is in a chapter, this comes out. That's just the way it is. It's Santa Hat Shanks. Shanks himself is Santa Claus. He is my favorite part-timer in the series. Now, note what I said. Part-timer. Because Blackbeard, even though I prefer Blackbeard as a character to Shanks, I feel like I get more hyped when I see Shanks just due to their circumstances of how Oda's built up his character throughout the story. Right? So, and imagine when both Blackbeard and Shanks face off. How I'm going to feel about that. Do y'all, bro, this is why that anime episode is so GOAT to me. Because they added those little sequences with the red hair pirates and the Blackbeard pirates, like facing off. Oh, dude, that joke was so beast. I remember watching the anime for the first time, and I was like, yo, I don't remember the sequence from the manga. And I was like, bro, they added a goat scene. They need to add more scenes like that. That joke was amazing. But Shanks coming in to end the war. And 580 as well, you know, Kizaru coming down and yo, Mihawk talking about I agreed to fight with Whitebeard. But that Shanks guy? Not today, Chief. Not today. Like, look at him. You feel me, dog? Like, just amazing, amazing stuff. And I love everything about these two chapters. It is the perfect final chapter to Marineford, man. Shanks is like, dog, we done. We done. And if Sengoku was like, you heard him? We done. And, you know, I'm one of those people that is on the side of had they continued going through that. Because the Marines just had so much behind that fortress that inevitably they were gonna catch a W before Shanks arrived. But after Shanks arrived, because of the damage that had already been taken from the Marines in this entire battle, it was smart of Sengoku to say, dog, we done. We're done. We took on Whitebeard. There's no way we're fighting another Blacknard's long battle with Shanks. That's not happening, coach. Like, you feel me? So, that moment will always be incredible to me. You wait the entire series to see this man not in a post-arc chapter. You wait the entire series to see this man in the flesh, in the same place as Luffy. And what better way than to have him at the end of the greatest war arc, man. Like, you just had Ace die. You just had Blackbeard take Whitebeard's fruit with Whitebeard's death. Everything's going down. Kobe's speech. Shanks shows up and says, boy, we done. Close it off. Close it off. Ain't nobody want any smoke. I got Lucky Roo. Lucky Roo by himself one-shots galaxies. Shanks and Blackbeard greatness, man. Amazing stuff. So that is another honorable mention. Like I said, man, these chapters are in my top 15 in all of One Piece. I mean, as I'm pretty sure it is for a lot of you as well. At least one of those chapters is probably in one of your top 15s, right? All three of them are in mine. I adore those chapters. So then, the next honorable mention before we get into my favorite chapter of 2010 is this chapter right here. Now, this chapter... This was the chapter we left off on before that legendary 5-week break, man. Chapter 597. Post Marineford, I've grown to love so much more as the years have gone by. It's one of those chapters that I have a lot of nostalgia and memories for. And thanks to the anime, I've gotten a greater appreciation for certain parts of that arc that I didn't have previously. Like the Dodon moment in the anime hit harder for me. And the I Still Have My Nakama scene hit me harder in the anime as well, as much as it hit me in the manga, because that one hit hard. but that one hit just as hard as the Dadan scene in the anime. Just beautiful, beautiful moments. But this chapter, to encapsulate the entire First Marineford arc, is so beautiful because you have Zoro telling Mihawk to please train him, and that is something that none of us expected. We're like, flagging, is Mihawk actually going to accept this? And the fact that Zoro's saying that he's going to do all this to surpass him, and he's doing it for his captain, dog, like, just showing Zoro's loyalty. Like, this is the same dude at the beginning of the series who said, if you get in my way, I'm not gonna, or they're telling Luffy, like, if you get in my way, Doc, I'm just gonna spread. And the fact that he's doing this on top of what he did in Thriller Bark, I was like, bro, Zoro greatness, right? And then Zoro finally gets that message to for 3D2Y with his incredible panel, which is in Fight Together. We're gonna meet in 2 years. Then we cut back to the king, over there with Rayleigh on Recycling Island, man, and then we get this incredible panel right here, yo. Like, let's get started. And then we go on the 5-week break. And the time comes for my favorite chapter of 2010. And one of my favorite chapters of all time. I'm talking about all of manga and all of in the books and comics and graphic novels that I've read. When it comes to just a single experience that I will never forget, I will never, ever forget the first time I read chapter 598. Never. Never. This is just one of those experiences, moments, that when I'm sitting and rocking on my chair as a 70-year-old, I'm going to think about it. That is how much this moment impacted me. That is how much this chapter impacted me. And it's crazy because this isn't a chapter that's extremely emotional like that of an Ace chapter or a Whitebeard chapter. It's not a chapter that's extremely hyped like a Shanks chapter. But the thing is this is chapter 598, man. It is the first time that we see the Straw Hats post-time skip. The encapsulation of 5 weeks of theorizing. The community had gone together in the threads. I joined the YTAC after this chapter to see what other people were going to be thinking about it and talking about it. I found podcasts. I found everything thanks to this chapter. I just wanted to talk about One Piece, bro. Like, it was the highest moment for that, where I was like, man, I just want to talk about this series, man. Like, I want to talk about it with anyone. And this page right here, bro, I mean, listen to me, dog. Luffy, yeah, I'm coming. 2 years have passed since Navy headquarters and 7 warlords on the CA class of the Whitebeard Pirates in the Paramount War. This is Ruskaina, a deserted island to the northwest of the Island of Women. It sure flew by. Luffy goes down and grabs the hat. It's already been 2 years. We get an incredible double-page spread, dog. And we see how much this man has changed just based on his interactions with the animals, bro. Hancock is still here trolling. He hits us with the eye, Ikuzo. And when you turn the page, bro, when I turned the page and saw this, and I remembered chapter 1, my emotions lost it, bro. I was like, dog, we're heading towards the end of this series, bro. I inspected this page more than I've inspected a page, I think, in any chapter in the series. I was just like, yo! Like, bro, I remember turning this page, and I was like, dude, what happened to Zoro's eye? Sanji, Usopp, I was like, yo, Nami out here looking red. I was like, Robin, oh my. But I was like, bro, everybody's looking so amazing, dog. I was losing my mind, and then you go back to Sabaody, and the way that it was done so well with how Oda reintroduced all of the characters in his own new world romance Dawn way. Like Soul King Brook, and Sanji Charlie's like, oh my god, I finally see women again, and it's freaking Usopp and Nami having extremely awesome moments with the fake Straw Hats. I mean, I adore this chapter. I found this chapter is like 28 pages long. Just incredible stuff, man. The fact that Zoro was the first one to come back, seeing Robin with the shades popping off, yo, like Chopper, more of the fake Straw Hats, just, I love this chapter, man. With every fiber of my being. This chapter in this episode 517, just every time I go back to it, it brings back those amazing and good vibes of when I first experienced it. And when it comes to experiences in manga, there are very few like this one for me. And it's why I value the manga experience for One Piece so much. It's thanks to this chapter. And I'm so glad that I was able to experience it in the time that I did, man. And it's something I'll never forget, and it's something I'll always be grateful for. It's something that always brings a smile to my face. And because of the way this chapter is, it's going to be so, so difficult for me to put anything above it for a very, very long time. But there's certain chapters I have on the same tier for sure. But this one, just as an experience, was just out of this world, man. And even whenever I reread it or rewatch it, it always hits home. And whenever I see other people's reactions to it, I'm like, man, you just feel the excitement in the air. Like, yo, these are the Straw Hats post-time skip, dude. Just love it. Love every moment and section of that chapter. That's chapter 598, man. The flipping greatness. But yeah, man, that's my favorite chapter of 2010. And though that is my year in review for 2010, the legendary year of awesome sauce provided many, many of my favorite chapters in the entire series. Now let's move on to 2011, man. Now 2011, I have one favorite chapter. I managed to bring it down to one, and that one is my solid 100% favorite chapter of the year. Look at this volume cover, bro. Love this volume cover, yo. With Jinbei and Luffy back to back. It's so fresh. But my favorite chapter of 2011 is... Let's go ahead and go right to it. Yeah, here's... I always have that thing on it. Come on. Mother of Flagnuts. It's this one right here. Chapter 650, 2 changes to be aware of. Now this chapter right here, we get... No, you know what? Before I get into this chapter, before this chapter came out, throughout the entirety of Fishman Island and through Return to Sabaody, we had gotten hints of how the world had changed, right? So we had been waiting to see when we were going to get news and information on what was going on in the whereabouts of the entire world. Because since the end of Marineford, we knew that there was an aftermath. We knew that a lot of things have changed. And we saw certain bits of that change in Return to Sabaody, a little bit in the beginning of Fishman Island. But we didn't get it to this magnitude. This is what started the legendary post-time skip, post-arc chapters. Because in this chapter, we got name drops and importance of all the ancient weapons. The confirmation that Poseidon is in fact Shirahoshi. Caribou, which is a plot point that still has yet to be touched upon again. Listening to that very idea of, oh snap, Poseidon is Shirahoshi. And then we find out that Akainu and Aokiji had a fight, bro. When I read that panel, I was sweating so hard. I was like, dog, I don't care how it is we gotta see it. I just want to see it. I just want to see it. And whenever we got to Punk Chasm, we saw the aftermath of it. Oh my god, dude. Like, I was like, bruh. The fact that 2 admirals dueled it out on an island. It's like, man, dude. Finding out Akainu was the one that got out of it alive. Or I should say, as the winner. And it became the new fleet admiral. And then Blackbeard, a Yonko. And y'all know me, I'm a Blackbeard tard, bro. I was like, when I found out Blackbeard was a Yonko, I was like, I was marking out, dude. I was like, my boy Blackbeard out here made it, bro. He's right next to Shanks out here doing it big. Like, man, dude, it was great. And then, of course, you have the other party stuff. But whenever Caribou was... taking out Shirahoshi, and you have Luffy looking Caribou like, who does this guy think he is? Podes him, you know, that was a great comedic moment. But, man, dude, and then towards the end of the chapter, you get to go back and see where is the, where is it? Right here. Then, bro, we get to, for the first time, hear of the ministers, Peckhams and Tamago, bro, from the Sweets Factory. Coming in for Big Mom's crew. And we were like, holy flagnards, dude, like, Big Mom herself is sending individuals to come here. We're gonna see some Yonko commanders? And that was such a fun time, just... And then, of course, you know, it followed after that. But that chapter in particular just had so much. You know, with that conversation down below with Neptune and Robin, continuing that conversation with the Jobo and Poseidon from the previous chapter, which I've gone back to so many times. But then right after that, with the name drops of all the ancient weapons, the importance of them, Caribou listening to that, and then finding out what happened between Aokiji and Akainu, extremely hype stuff, Blackbeard becoming a Yonko, the fact that we were about to get one of Big Mom's commanders coming in to discuss. I was like, hold on, coach, what are we getting ourselves into? So great chapter, and that's why chapter 650 was my favorite chapter of that year. Now, there was a lot of other great chapters, like the finale of Luffy vs. Cody Jones, the amazing Path of the Sun chapter with Luffy and Jinbei, and the sharing of the blood. Just one of the most beautiful moments in the entire series, and so that came out that year as well. And of course, chapter just talked about 649 too, with the Poseidon stuff. But those chapters overall, I just felt like chapter 650, I remember being the most hype when we're going through that, and just the overall enjoyment from the entire chapter coming in from that one. So that's why I decided to go with chapter 650 for my 2011 chapter of the year, man. Now then, 2012. Now this chapter right here, 2012, I kind of knew which one I was going to go with, but I had to go back and reread this volume just to see which one I really, really wanted to go with. And I ended up going with this one right here, man. Now, if you were a part of the community at that point in time, because that was whenever the YTAC was already becoming a thing, we were already reviewing like the big 3 chapters. I was heavily involved in watching other people's videos. And when this chapter came out, this junk was popping all over the community, man. We were all so hyped for this chapter that you felt it, bro. I mean, you legit felt it in the community. It was so much, man. It was a great time to be in the community. But I'm talking about chapter 690, man. Sad, bro. I almost went with 692, and I almost went with 687. Excuse me. But I was like, you know what? I gotta go with 690, man. 690 has the aftermath of Luffy punching Caesar. I mean, he obliterated, he flinged him into the flag darts. And I was like, let's go, bro. And he flinged him again into the flag darts in the very same chapter. And then you get to go back and you see Smoker versus Virgo. Now, this episode in the anime, episode 616, is GOAT. It is a phenomenal episode, man. Sheeta at his finest. It is a great episode, bro. You just have them fighting from the Sad Machine. Law is there. The whole concept of the hearts. And then, yo, whenever he starts talking to Dofi on Denden Mushi, you're like, oh, Flag Darts, bro, Joker. And so Dofi's listening in on the thing. He's like, you know, doing his classic thing. So right after Smoker and Virgo have their entire altercation, you have Law having this conversation. This man Virgo full body hockey's up, and you're like, oh, Flag Darts. My mans goes up toward him. Law proceeds to cut him, but not only does he cut him, bro. He goes in and he talks about how the Marineford War, it's been 2 years. But what exactly has been moving since then? That was only the beginning, bro. And then you get one of the most iconic double-page spreads post-time skip of the entire mountain being cut in half, bro. And I was like, yeah. Bro, White Brilliant left his mark on our times. Navy headquarters has bolstered itself with new strength. None of the other big players have acted as though they've only been preparing. That war was nothing more than a prologue. Like you've always said, a new age is coming with unmatched power. An age of the daring and mighty will have destroyed the gears and no one can turn back. That's the moment to set it off, bro. It's the moment to set everything into motion to where we are right now in Wano. Amazing stuff, bro. That chapter, when I read that, I mean, as I'm sure all of you were, we were like, oh, Flatteners, what did Law just do, bro? This man just declared war on Doflamingo. My man's telling him this is only just the beginning of what's about to go down, of the seas they're about to shift. The fact that he went to just cut Virgo, and he ended up cutting the entire mile. I was like, bro, that was like peak Law season. I mean, my Law hype during that and Dressrosa was all the way up here. Like, yo, amazing stuff. 2013. So once again, 2012, my chapter of the year was 690. 2013. Now right here is when I started the YouTube channel. I started the YouTube channel in 2013 because I wanted to discuss the awesome sauce. It was starting to get to the point to where, because of the way Dressrosa started, I was like, you know what? Whenever I get to a certain point, I really want to discuss this magnificent series on YouTube. And I finally got a camera. My first ever camera, which was my smartphone. That was the first time I ever had a smartphone. Before that, I had the good old BlackBerry flip phone for the longest of times. And so during the summer of that year, I finally got a smartphone. And the very first thing I did with that smartphone, whenever I got to my grandma's house, is that I recorded why I got into One Piece. That was the very first video I ever did on my old channel. And the chapter that came out that week was chapter 710, Green Bit. and I still have, or yeah, towards Greenbit, and I still have the poster. I still keep it right there for good vibes from that chapter. Legendary Luffy Bruce Lee chapter, color page, and that was the first chapter I ever did a review for. Even though that chapter got flagged, like that or that video got flagged, it'll have a special place in my heart forever, man. I had a copyright strike with my very first videos for that, and for I think it was for Bleach or for Naruto. But for the One Piece one, for sure, I had a copyright strike, and I was like, whatever, man, I gotta talk about the greatness. So I learned my lesson though with putting panels in the videos. That's why I got copyright striked. But yeah, man, that year of content in One Piece 2013, that was some awesome stuff, bro. There was a stretch from chapter 729 until my favorite chapter of the year, which was 731. That was absolute madness. So let me go through my honorable mentions first. 729, Doflamingo versus Law. When I was going through this chapter and I reached the final page of the chapter and I saw what Dofi had just done to Law, I was shook, bro. I was like, yo, my man's legit just lit him up and then licked off the blood. I was like, yo, straight up Doflamingo season. I was so hyped, bro. I was like, Dofi the GOAT. This next chapter, chapter 730, this is before the era of live reactions, right? At least for me, I didn't live react this time. I read this chapter in my school library. I screamed like you would. I mean, bro, if any of you ever been in a library in your local college or even your high school, wherever it is that you went to school, right? You know what I mean, man. And whatever, if you've been in a library, you know how it is. It's mad quiet. People are studying. They're on the computers doing the thing. Just imagine a random dude yelling, "Big Mom!" Bro, I legit, dog. Bro, I was sitting in my chair. And when I turned the page and I actually got a close-up look at Big Mom's thing, I leaped. I'm like, bro, I was so shook. When I turned the page and I saw Big Mom's ship, I was like, yo, Oda, what are we doing? Because the beginning of the chapter was already hyping up. We had Zoro clashing with Fujitora. I was like, let's go. Fujitora then uses his devil fruit to take Zoro all the way down to the bottom. We pop back and we see them continuing to clash. Fujitora's like, bruh, hold on a sec. Then we go back. Everybody else gets confirmation there's an Admiral in Dressrosa. Dofi and Fujitora right into it. Dofi is holding Law's lifeless body. Luffy gets into contact with the rest, with the Sunny. You turn the page and you see Big Bro. Like I said, words can't explain it. When I saw that panel, I leaped. It was over. It was over. The rest of my day, there was nothing but One Piece going in my mind. Bro, I was like, oh, Yonko? I was so shook, dude. Insane stuff, man. And just Sanji's incredible moment, requesting permission to strike back at Big Mom's ship. And Luffy's like, dog, do it, bro. That shit was so godly. And Sanji's like, yo, we'll see y'all in Zo. I'm gonna take care of Big Mom. I was like, Sanji. I was like, bro, peak Sanji hype, dog. I wouldn't say peak Sanji hype, but it was definitely one of the peaks. Because Sanji had just finished rocking with Doflamingo. That was also a really fun chapter that year. But the fact that Sanji was going to Big Mom's show, I was like, yo, this is Sanji's season, son. And the fact that then Frankie was like, yo, leave the factory to us. We're going to go up and like swim more. And Luffy was like, dog, we're going to go to the palace to take down Doflamingo. And the fact that isn't my favorite chapter of the year says a lot, man. But how could I not put this chapter as my favorite chapter of the year? This chapter is one of those you'll never forget where you were when you first read it chapters. I was at my friend's house that lives right across the street from me, the Forgotten Straw Hat, if you guys remember his channel from back in the old days. I was at his house when this chapter came out because I believe this was a chapter that was not supposed to come out, and it came out a little earlier than usual. When I found out the chapter came out, I immediately went on and read it. And I'll never forget how I felt when I first saw how Luffy reacted. Because when I saw how Luffy reacted, I was like, bro, who is this? And you keep reading and you're like, bro, it's flipping Sabo. And I just remember getting mad emotional, bro. I mean, just imagine, right? Being at your friend's house. You're at your boy's house. But you just finished reading something mad emotional, bro. The moment I finished reading the chapter, because I'll always feel bad for this, I ended up spoiling everybody that was there. And I know that the moment will never be the same for him, I guess. But I ended up spoiling him and the other friend that was there, even though the other friend was really into One Piece. And I was like, dog, I gotta go home, man. I gotta talk about this chapter. And on the walk here, I just remember being like, yo, did I really just read that? Like, all these years of us theorizing, is Sabo really alive? Is he still alive? You know, aside from Meadows being Kaido, Sabo being alive was like the biggest theory that we were all discussing. And the fact that Oda dropped this in the middle of Dressrosa, we're like, bro, what is this arc? And when I got home, I sat down in this chair and I recorded the video. Because I recorded 2 videos that night, man. I recorded the first one of my initial afterthoughts of what I just read. And after a few hours passed and I reread the chapter so many times, I made an I Love One Piece video. Because that is how much this chapter impacted me, man. It's one of those chapters that hits you on a really, really emotional level. And just... it's like, yo, you get the Sabo, bro. It's him, bro. And the fact that Koala's talking to him, you're like, yo, we know who this is, bro. We know who this is. And whenever you go down, you see the Sake comes out, like, bro. Oh, there's a goat. I just... Forever a legendary chapter, man. He could have gone through that in a completely different way, but the fact that he did that and dropped that in the middle of Dressrosa in the manner that he did is something I will never forget from my weekly experience, man. That's why that is my favorite chapter of 2013. It's chapter 731, bro. Amazing Sabo! Greatness. Following year. Or the following... following year, 2014. Now, in 2014, we had I think this was one of the weaker years in terms of content because Oda was sick for a good majority of the year, and a lot of us were really, really worried about him because he took so many breaks, and whenever we found out why he was taking those breaks, the fact that he was in the hospital, because that's whenever Kishi visited his room, and he found out that he was still drawing even while he was in the hospital, and it was a really crazy time for One Piece, and you could tell because in certain chapters the art wasn't up to normal standard, and it's due to the fact that Oda was just really, really sick. We were all really worried about him that year, and the fact that he was able to finish it off as strongly as he did was really impressive, and it was just classic Oda. So, but that entire year, I think that was the year we got the least amount of chapters we've ever had in the series because of the amount of breaks that we had. But even within that, he released some incredible content, man. And my personal favorite chapter of the year, without question, is chapter 767. Now, this chapter... Well, first of all, I gotta show this cover page off first. This isn't a part of the chapter, but... Shout out to the Naruto, I think that came out the same week that Naruto ended. And, I think that is the one that came out the same week Naruto ended. And the fact that he dressed up Nami in the Akatsuki uniform, and Nami Na, and then Luffy with the Ru, and then To for Tony Chopper, and the fact that he's eating with Naruto and the thing, I thought that was a really cool touch. But the chapter after that, chapter 767, is this one right here. Chapter 767 called Korasan. I'll remember whenever I was going through this and I came on here to talk about it. It was hard to talk about, bro. Because this was one of the most emotional flashbacks that we had post time skip. From the beginning of the chapter too, because you got it first from Doflamingo's perspective and the way that he saw what happened with his father. And you get to see what's going down currently in present time. And then you go to see Law, and you see what truly is taking place with Dofruit Hand, and the fact that he's trying to talk and he can't talk. He's trying to yell and he can't yell, bro. And you have Dofi approaching Koda-san, Dofi looking mad fresh. And then Law can't say anything, bro. And my man is out here and says, yo, I'm a Navy man. I'm sorry for lying. I just didn't want you to hate me. And the fact that Law is listening to this, bro. I fed the opioid fruit to Law. And by now he'll be under the protection of the Navy HQs. Scout ship, you can't have him. And then Dofi's like, Sugar's like, yo, is he shooting? And Dofi holds out in a classic, like old like Western movie pose. Dofi holds out his gun. Corazon holds out his gun too. And you have the flashback to whenever he says, yo, I love you, bro. And it hits Law, dog. And then he says, just let him go. He's free. And he pops him, bro. And Law can't yell, dude. He's sitting in there, and then they finally release him from the shackles, and you hear the tears, and he's crying with every of his might, man. I mean, that is one of the most emotional chapters we've had post-time skip. And the fact that that was the chapter that ended the flashback, and then we go right back into present time with Doflamingo and Law. Just that chapter always hit home for me, man, as I'm sure it has for a lot of you, especially after the way the anime handled it. But it's just overall, from beginning to end, from Dofi's perspective, I mean, just look at what he had to do, bro. First with his pops, and the fact that he had to pop his brother right after that. And you gotta think about from Dofi, like, God, man. Punished character he is. But Koda-san, from the fact that he died with a smile on his face, like, now my boy is free, man. Beautiful, beautiful chapter. And that's why that chapter is my chapter of the year for 2014. Right there, man. Once again, a year that was mainly full of worry for Oda, but he ended up drawing the incredible Law flashback within that year, so incredible stuff, man. 2015. Now, this is the year I lost my old channel and started the new channel. Even though I lost the channel in December 1st or 2nd, so the majority of the year was back on 2015 on the old channel, but then I started the new channel during Zoe. But this year has a lot of honorable mentions too, because this year or not a lot, but it has 3. So now y'all just heard me talking about the weekly experience, man. It's hard for me to talk, bro, when it comes to this chapter, because there's certain moments in the weekly experience that you just never ever forget. My first honorable mention is chapter 783. Just for that panel right there. Because we spent 2 weeks theorizing what Gear 4th could be. I had Kevin come on here and give his theory on what Gear 4th could be. Do y'all remember that? When even the Kevo came on here and gave his theory? And then he comes back from break and delivers one of my favorite chapters in terms of action that he has drawn in the series. I was so hyped, bro. I mean, this was the year this was when everyone was doing live reactions. I mean, how could you not, bro? And then whenever you first see Luffy popping, Gia Force. And I'm like, bro, what is he doing, dog? Muscle balloon, he becomes huge. And when I first saw this, I was like, yeah. And still to this day. Y'all know how much I love Gear 2nd. That's the first poster I ever got in my room. The moment I saw Gear 4th, I was like, this is my favorite form. This is my favorite form. I love everything that has to do with this form. And it's only amplified now that we've seen the other variations of it, like Snake Man, Tank Man, and of course the Bounce Man. But the moment I saw Bounce Man, I was like, dude, this is just so Dragon Ball. I love it, dog. Like, it was just so dope, and it was so Luffy, so Oda. And like that Nightmare Luffy type of aesthetic to it, but it was different, and I loved it, man. The fact that he was bouncing. And the attacks that he used with the Kong gun and the way these action sequences were done. It was so dope. Luffy's coming in and flying. The Reno Schneider. I reread this chapter so many times. The Culverin. And then he goes right back in and he slaps with the face. Chapter 784, man. We first get to see Gear 4th in action. Legendary, legendary stuff, man. I adore that chapter. And there's a lot of great chapters in this year. But that one right there is definitely worthy of an honorable mention, man. That is one of those, I'm so glad I was a part of the weekly experience type of chapters. Now, my chapter of the year discussion was between the next two chapters. I gave it to one mainly for a specific reason, but the other one is just as iconic. And I wish I could give it to both because I love them both equally. If I had made like a list, I'd have them on there like in the same tier and around the same number because I just really, really adore both chapters. And I'm talking about, let's see. Oh, wrong volume. Where's my, oh, here it is. See, I knew I was going to have to go to it. I was going to have to bring out another volume. In volume 79, we're going to be talking about, as my last honorable mention for that legendary year. Come on. Chapter 795, man. This chapter was so hype that I ran around the house like 50 times in that reaction. Y'all remember that? I was sweating. That was one of the chapters I sweat the hardest while reading. And it's crazy because the way the chapter starts off with everything taking on, or everything finally finishing off, post Dressrosa and whatnot, singing with Fujitora and then Rebecca, and then we cut back immediately to Zoe, and we see Sanji and Caesar. We're like, whoa! So we're like, we're finally seeing what's happening in Zoe. We get to see some of Kaido's crew members for the first time, and we're like, bro, what is going on? We see Sanji going up in like swim. We're like, bro, what is this? And then we go to the height of the Kid Pirates, bro. We see Kid and Hawkins. Oh crap, my thing's running out of battery. But we see Kid and Hawkins. The strong live and the weak die. That is the only rule of the world. And we get the panels of legend, bro. I've had these two saved for years, mainly because of the legendary thread, the greatest Facebook thread in the history of threads, back in the old J room, man, where we just trolled the Flagnards out of this and just memed it to high Flagnards. So much fun. The absolute greatest Facebook thread ever created. And we're just like, bro, who is this dude? And we get our very first look at Kaido, man. And he's right in front of Apu, Kid, and Hawkins. And we're just like, Kaido! Now hurry up, Joker, for the final battle. Let this dreary world be destroyed. Let's start the greatest war this planet has ever seen. And I was like, Flag Knights. Bro! Like, the hype levels are this. Well, that is one of the greatest character introductions in the entire series, man. Like, Kaido, and then the fact that he had a design like this, I was like, bro, what is this? Amazing, amazing stuff. I adore that chapter, man. Like I said, mainly for the experience part with that Facebook thread, because it was so hilarious, so great. Almost crashed a few times reading that thread, man. Just legendary stuff. I'll never forget it. But the chapter itself, I mean, God, bro, that's Kaido's introduction, man. I mean, we were all marking out to high Flagnards. Insane stuff. I really wish I still had this reaction on the channel, or this video, because that was one of those that was one of those sweating harder than Flagnards chapters, man. That was a Santa Hat chapter before the Santa Hat was created chapters, man. Amazing stuff. Kaido's introduction. My camera's about to die. I'm gonna switch. I think I'm gonna record the rest of it on my phone. Screw it. I don't feel like stopping here. So we're gonna keep going. I'm probably gonna pull out my phone here in a second. All right, man. We're finishing the rest of this video on my phone because my camera said, nah, we done. There's too much greatness that has been discussed, and I'm like, all right, Chief, take a rest, take a break. We're gonna continue to talk about some more awesome sauce, man. So once again, for 2015, my honorable mentions so far have been 783, 784, and 795. Now, my chapter of the year for 2015 was the chapter that night I stayed up. I would say it was one of those chapters that I stayed up for. It was, I think, chapter came out like at 1 or something, and I was live streaming it that night. And I will never forget, because we stayed up talking about this chapter until about 4 a.m. It was like a 5-hour reaction. It was insane, man. But the implications of this chapter, bro, were way too much. I had a theory on the old channel that Sanji is royalty, right? And it was something that had just been lingering around, going in. But when this chapter came out, I was like, bro, is this a possibility? Is this a shoot? And I'm talking my favorite chapter of 2015 is chapter 801, opening speech, the Throne Wars, bro. The chapter starts off with Robert D. Lucci, bro. Do I need to continue on? Do I even need to continue on? The chapter starts with Robert D. Lucci. Come on, coach. We see what's been going on with Dressrosa ever since, or I should say, what is the true end of Dressrosa? You know, seeing these characters are all for the last time. With the Tontadas, everybody's building the statues for Lucy and whatnot. And then we cut to the Navy fleet, to the Marine fleet at sea. And we see Fujitora and Sengoku, and they're eating. And Sudo is there with Doflamingo. And Doflamingo delivers one of the most incredible speeches in this series up until this point in time. Who rules this stretch of water? Is it one of the 4 emperors? Perhaps the 7 warlords who use their trickery to get by? Maybe those brats in the worst generation. Bro, look at that, dude. But then there's the forces of justice. The Navy reigns supreme. And the Revolutionary Army, the will of the people, is stocked with fighters to be reckoned with. And the people of the D who have smoldered away beneath the currents of history, when will they show themselves and where? Who will aid whom? Who will betray whom? You tell those little dragons in Mighty Joe, you'll be dragged down from your lofty perch. It's been 25 years since Gold Roger became the first man to conquer the Grand Line. He has rather Whitebeard sat before the throne, but never upon it. And what about now? The number of pirates has swelled, but there's still just this one seat sitting empty. Do you see where I'm going with this? This is gonna kick off the greatest battle for power in the history of Pirate Guide, bro. Like, yo, the Throne Wars, bro. And in the very same chapter, we get introduced to Jack. And we're like, holy sweet mother of Flagnars, man. Captain Jack. Who is this dude? And then we can see the Barto Club with the awesome sauce. Like, oh, Flagnars, bro. And then the Luffy and Bellamy scene right here. And everybody getting their favorite cards. And then we finally get to see everyone's bounties post-Dressrosa. With the Luffy at the 500 mil and everyone. But then we get to the Sanji poster. And Sanji's poster says, only alive. And that is where the theories started popping off, man. And this chapter was just so phenomenal, man. The implications with one of the CP0 members being Rob Lucci, and the return of CP9 within CP0 with Spandam there as well. And then we go out to sea. Dolphy delivers that phenomenal speech, which is setting off exactly what is going down right now. It just gives you absolute chills. It was a promo, a once-in-a-lifetime promo, man. Doflamingo has had incredible lines of dialogue. But that one's just S+ tier, bro. I mean, yo, that one right there, when you deliver a line like that, you're a legend, coach. You are 100% considered, yo, I was the one holding the reins to the monsters in the underworld. Like, Dolphy. Staying up theorizing that all night, then theorizing the Beaver card thing, especially after chapter 800. Now they were talking, Oda put in the little Oda box. This is going to lead to an event that was huge. We theorized about that. And of course, in that stream, we talked to Flagnards about the Sanji implications, man. And it's that entire experience that has this chapter as my favorite chapter of 2015, man. Amazing, amazing content. Absolutely adore that chapter and always will. Especially when that was within the time that my heart was wavering a lot in terms of what series I preferred more between Gintama and One Piece. The Gintama anime was going in, the One Piece manga was going in, the Gintama manga was going in, and the One Piece anime was going in. So like they were clashing harder than ever, and this chapter dropped, and I was like, oh. I was sweating, bro. Like, yo, this is too good. This is too incredible. But let's go to 2016. Now, 2016, this is where we started getting into chapters that I've officially covered here on the channel. So these videos are still here, thank God. And in 2016, there was one particular chapter that dropped that year that was a clear cut above the rest. And I would dare say the following year, this was the best episode of that year as well. And I'm talking about chapter 844, Luffy versus Sanji.
This is one of those chapters that whenever you read it, it's like the Sabo reveal where you just never forget it. You know, in terms from an emotional standpoint of like where you were reading it. And I was sitting in this very room reading that chapter, and it just hurt me so much knowing what both sides had been through to get to where they were in this very moment, and how much in the journey that they've both been through up until this point in time. And knowing, especially since we just got Sanji's flashback, we know why he's doing all this. And the fact that he's still going about it, still trying to put up this front just to save Luffy, was hitting home hard. But nothing hits harder than Luffy's final words to Sanji, bro. God, man. When Sanji hits that joy shot and he actually hits him, and we're like, holy flagnards. And Luffy's just not budging, bro. He's like, I'm not gonna fight you, dog. And Sanji just keeps wailing at him and wailing. I mean, he hits him with the fattest concussor. Nami goes up to him, single tear, and slaps the flagnars out of him. And Sanji does not react in the slightest. That's when I knew it was real, dog. When Sanji didn't react to Nami, bro. That's when I knew it was real. But then we get this scene right here. This is one of the most emotional scenes in all of One Piece, bro. What do you mean inferior pirates? You mean you know you don't mean that. Do you really think you can drive me off like this? Stop lying. Don't be stupid. You can kick me all you want, but you're the one feeling that pain. And when you see Sanji holding his face, he thought, oh my god. Like, man, dude. Should we stop Sanji? No. Ever hear of the All Blue? This voyage isn't over yet. I'll be waiting right here, and if you don't come back, I'll just sit here and starve. You're the cook for my ship. I won't eat anyone's food but yours anymore. I'll just stand here and starve out in the rain and the snow waiting for you to come back. Come back, Sanji. Without your help, I can't become the Pirate King, bro. Like, yo, that moment in the anime, in the manga, it'll always hit. It'll always hit because that is some beautiful, beautiful stuff, man. That's coming from Luffy. Luffy is the type of individual that nothing will stop him from becoming the Pirate King. And the fact that he's putting his dream aside, saying, damn it, you're coming with me to the end because there is no other person's food that I would rather eat than yours, dog. You are my cook. And without you, I can't become Pirate King, bro. That was so beautiful, dog. I was like, ah. One of the most incredible chapters. Without question, a chapter of the year worthy contender. A chapter of the year, for sure, for me. And the episode complements it very, very well in being the best episode of that year as well, man. Or the following year, because it took them a year to get there, but... Chapter 844, greatness, man. I'll never forget when I read that chapter, bro. I was an emotional wreck the entire rest of the day. The rest of the week, I dare say. And I think that was that was the last chapter I read before I read NaNoWriMo before I went to NaNoWriMo that year. Because that year I actually left. I went on a complete hiatus. I did not read One Piece for a month. You believe that? Didn't read One Piece for an entire month and came back and did 2 doubles. Because it takes me so long to read One Piece, I couldn't read them all in one night. I'd read one night and then, or 2 one night and then 2 the following night. That was fun. I've yet to do that ever again. I've never done that before, and I've yet to do it since. That was a very memorable experience. Reading, I think it was 845 and 846, and 847 and 848. But, yeah, 844, man. Never forget it, dude. You know what it is to have that chapter lingering in your mind throughout the entirety of a month? It's like flipping flagnars, bro. Amazing, amazing stuff. But, yeah, man, then that is my favorite chapter of 2016, is 844. Now, 2017, man, this one right here is one that never fails to get me hyped, bro. It is an emotional chapter, but the final panel of this chapter is so goated, man. We're talking about my favorite chapter of 2017, chapter 878, Commander Pedro of the Mink Guardians. First of all, goat color page. Goat color page. But when you start off the chapter with Pedro, or the confirmation of what happened between Pedro and losing his lifespan to Big Mom in the original altercation, and you see what Perospero and Pedro's past here, and what they've discussed in the past, and he starts talking about the night, and then we get a flashback of Roger. And now, I've said this many times on this channel. Any chapter with Roger is a 50 out of 10. This chapter had Roger in it automatically chapter of the year. You know what I'm saying? So the anime really nailed this moment. But it was great whenever he says, night is synonymous with the moment before the dawn. And going back to Roger's flashback and what Roger told him. Like, yeah, man, it's not your time yet. But wait, because someday it will come and your turn will come. Everyone has their moment to shine. And then he finds out that Roger's dead. And he delivers that speech. And night is synonymous with the moment before dawn. If I can lay the foundation for the dawning of the world that the men I look up to await, I'll be happy. I'm certain I have enough time for that. And we see that he explodes. Everyone cries. And that was the end of Pedro, man. Amazing way for him to go out. And we see everyone still crying, still struggling. And they're trying to leave immediately. Luffy's like, yo, if we don't leave now, we're just going to be throwing a sacrifice. Katakuri's coming towards them. And Luffy's like, nah, we're leaving because I'm the captain of this ship. And he goes over and he starts boxing Katakuri. I was losing my mind, bro. Him and Cat are going at it. Big Mamas are behind them too. Like, sweet mother of Flanders, what is going on? And then Luffy tells them, yo, I'll be back. Hold things down without me. And I was like, there's no way. He drags this man Katakuri into the mirror world. And we get one of the most goated, most Luffy scenes in the entire series, bro. This is a king energy scene, bro. When Luffy smashed the mirror and was like, dog, we boxing. We throwing hands down here. That is so gory. I reread this entire final portion of the chapter 40 times, man. I was like, yo, this is so hype. But that's exactly why this chapter is my favorite chapter of 2017. Just Katakuri and Luffy awesome sauce, a Roger sighting, and Pedro's death, man. All in one chapter. And that year had some really, really good chapters. But that one was a cut above the rest for me. When it came to that year's content. Oh, and going back to 2016, 818, and that entire stretch, 816, 818, 8 because the rise was safe, man. That moment was absolutely incredible. Actually, let me go and bring that out. Let me talk about that chapter. Because immediately whenever I thought about 2016, I was like 844. There's no question. But man, dude, I gotta talk about, at the very least, I gotta talk about Rise was safe, man. Let me bring up that volume. That jump was crazy. Just going back to 2016 right quick. No, wrong volume. This is volume 81. Bro, this is one of the most beautiful moments in all of One Piece, man. That, Raizo is safe, bro. That was so shocking, bro. That jump hurt. I was like, yo, these dudes legit are loyal as flagnards, man. Amazing chapter. And then in whenever we first found out about the road poneglyphs, that was a game changer. Let me see. With this one, I was like, holy flagnards, 818. Then started talking about Raftel and the road poneglyphs. I was like, bro, what are we talking about, dog? Just great stuff. 820, I remember really liking that chapter too. So 818, 816, and I think I really liked 823 as well, because that was whenever we saw Vivi again for the first time in a while, and then we found out about that Baltico headquarters had been destroyed. We're like, holy flagnards. We got to see Kaido again, Pudding, but yeah, definitely 844 is my favorite chapter that year. But shout out to 816, that's an honorable mention for sure. Rise of Safe Greatness, and 818, that was a great chapter. Inside the Whale, great chapter. So continuing onwards into 2018, man. Now, I have so many honorable mentions for this one that I'm going to go through these a bit quicker, because I know what my favorite chapter of the year is without question. It's the same one I had last year. But just to skim through a little bit, chapter 895, for sure, it's an honorable mention. There's just certain moments in the series, I'm just like I said for Gear 4th, I'm a big fan of transformations. No matter how old I get, I'll always be someone who loves transformations. And the fact that we got that with Snake Man, I remember staying up that night just waiting to see how the chapter would go out, and the fact that it was the finale of this wonderful 6-star classic between him and Katakuri, and the way the anime handled this was splendid too. But it was an amazing chapter of grown men throwing hands and all the battle, like just all the combat panels, and it was so much fun. It was great and extremely hype. And in that very same year, we had chapter 893, another honorable mention for me. Just, yo, my man took off the jacket. Carter Curry paying so much respect for him. The Conqueror's hockey scene, like, dude, goat, man. Look at the jacket, bro. That chapter was phenomenal. So 893 is another honorable mention. And then the final chapter of Whole Cake in chapter 902. I believe that's in volume 90. This entire volume as a whole is in my honorable mentions list. Literally the entire volume. I have chapter 902 End Roll for sure. That's a without question. That's one, this chapter in the anime is one of my favorite episodes in the entire series, without question. One of my favorite episodes in the entire series. Just everything about it, the way to think about it's the perfect final Whole Cake Island chapter. Reminiscing about Pedro, Carrot breaking down in front of him, and the fact that they're all finally back together. Soul Pocus, the pudding and Sanji scene, which made me cry like a madman. I hear the music right now in my head, bro. Dun, 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 dun. Just, man, dude, soul flipping focus, dude. The respect for Katakuri and Brule, the flashback, it's just, God, man, the aftermath of what took place there with Germa, Jinbei, Aladdin, and Life or Death, Soul Pocus. And to finish it off with Sanji and Zeph, what an amazing way to end Whole Cake Island, man. Without question, honorable mention. Love that chapter. Then there's chapter 903. This was the chapter that Real Dealman realized we're heading towards the end game of the series, man. Raid suit, the bounty fake out. Everyone's heading towards the Reverie. We see so many incredible characters. We see the new Marineford. We get to see Kobe again for the first time post-time skip Hell Meppo. See all the Yonko one page with the Shanks! For the first time post-time skip! Shanks! And like, holy flaggers, then you get the 1.5 billion. The fact that Luffy is now 5th Emperor of the Sea, dog. And it's like, oh my god. Amazing chapter. Definitely an honorable mention. I love that chapter. And then 904, shout out to 904 as well. Even though I'm not going to have an honorable mentions because I enjoy some of the other chapters more. But 904 is definitely worthy of at the very least, a mention there. Same thing with 905. The end of that chapter is so beautiful. But 906 is an honorable mention for sure, man. 906, seeing the Holy Land for the first time, like, outside of just the Gorosei's room. And exploring through it, seeing what truly is going down here, the secrets of this place of Pangea. And then we're going to see all of the other individuals that are here from the Reverie. We see Vivi and Rebecca interacting with each other. And then we have Shirahoshi getting involved as well. And then we get to see Wapol and Dalton and Kureha again, your Violet flashbacks. Then we get to look at this man, Doflamingo, once again with a promo of Legend, bringing the spookiest panels in all of One Piece. The panels that I go back to so much. I've gone back to these panels so many times. The introduction of Instant Messenger Sama, man. Like, dude, like, holy flag darts, bro. Just like, bro. I mean, y'all remember, man. Y'all were there. We were just like, what in the... I'm still saying, what in the flag darts is this? And then we get 907, which is another honorable mention. This one was really hard because this easily could have been my number one. But since the year has passed, I think my number one is clear cut number one for last year. But 907 is like right under it, man. You got Big Mom and Kaido starting off the chapter talking to each other. Then you get a new Marineford, Borsalino, saying that he's going to head over himself, yo. Big Mom and Kaido are over here talking about, yeah, we're going to sell the score like before. We're going to even join up. And Big Mom's talking about a debt. And I'm like, holy flat. Just the fact they're talking. He's like, sweet Jesus. And the Borsalino's like, yo, I might have to head over to Wano. We get the first character introduction to Rocks, or I should say mentioning to Rocks, which has become so important to the series since then with Garp. Then we get the empty throne, bro. Shirahoshi getting mauled by Sharlos, and then Sharlos gets pwned, yo. I mean, he just gets smacked by Mio's guard, which takes us back to Fishman Island. Lucci comes into the picture with Stussy and them and Gaku. Like, good God. But there's nothing that compares to the first time, bro. This, because I read this chapter before I went to work that day. All I could think about was this. I mean, the other pages in the chapter would come to mind sometimes, but I was thinking about was that. I was like, bro, what is Shanks? What is he talking about? Like, bro, everything came about. I was like, bro, why is Shanks there? Why did they allow them there? Did he just have that much clout? Did he turn heel? Like, what is Shanks doing there? What is Shanks doing there, bro? It's amazing stuff. The next chapter is my chapter of the year, but first I want to go through a few more honorable mentions because I have to talk about them. Final chapter in this volume, which is definitely an honorable mention for me, is chapter 909, which is the first chapter for Wano. You start off this chapter for Marco, or in Marco and Nekomamushi's territory. You get to see Marco for the first time post time skip. And some beautiful stuff with Whitebeard's past and whatnot. But I'll never forget turning the page and seeing Wano for the first time after speculating about it in Thriller Bark and forums and in comment sections and with my friends. It's like, what does Wano look like? What does Wano look like? And seeing it with my own two eyes for the first time was a surreal moment, man. And seeing Frankie and Usopp and Robin and all their glorious Wano outfits. But bro, Zoro, this right here was my phone lock screen for so long, dude. It was just so good. I was like, Zoro. Absolutely amazing stuff. And then my final two more honorable mentions. No, I would say three. I would say three, bro. That entire final portion of this volume right here. Like, dude, where is it? Well, I gotta give a shout out to 920 because I adore that chapter. I definitely have to give a shout out to that one, as well as 921 because that's the dragon chapter. But where's the side protection at, man? Gotta talk about the side protection. Side protection is definitely a honorable mention as well as 922. But side protection, man, come on, bro, come on. It's the side protection, man. Yo, when Luffy and Kaido are boxing out, this man hits the Thunder Bagua, bro. I mean, it's Luffy versus Kaido. What more needs to be said as Luffy versus Kaido? But the chapter, aside from 907, that came the closest for me from taking on number one is this one right here, which is the chapter that's going to be covered next week in the anime, and that's 925. Seeing Mihawk again for the first time, and the little rumblings of the abolishment of the Shichibukai. And you see Moria, and then you get to see Shiryu of the Rain, and you see Katarina. I'm like, oh god, can he be here? And y'all know me, I'm a Blackbeard tard, bro. When I saw Blackbeard for the first time, post time skip, with all of his glory. And my man's talking about the fact that the Revolutionary Army busted into the Mighty Joe to rescue Kuma, and they clashed with Green Bull and Fujitora. I was like, holy flag nards, bro. Blackbeard in the chapter doesn't even end there. You went to Wano Act 2, and you see Ashura Doji and Inarashi throwing hands. Like, yo, what is going on? And it's, diving a little bit into their past. And when we see that Tom is actually okay. And then we see King and Queen to end off the chapter. Amazing, amazing chapter. Of course, Blackbeard for me stole the show. And the fact that Shiryu was the one to, we thought for so many years he was going to get Josu's fruit. And the fact that he ended up getting Absalom's fruit was a huge twist. It's just amazing chapter. Goat Beard was in the chapter. What more needs to be said, man? But those are my honorable mentions. So many honorable mentions. Last year was so stacked for chapters, but there's only one number one for me last year, man. I have reread this chapter. I think at this point, it is like, and I've been into One Piece for a long time, guys. And this chapter just came out last year. And I think it's already in my top 10 most reread chapters in the series. I would dare say top 5. I've just gone back to it so many times for theories, man. In so many different aspects. But it's Instant Messenger Sama, bro. Chapter 908. Bonnie and Kuma. And their possible connection to each other. Sabo's rage. With the Revolutionary Army and their resolve. Get to see when the reverie actually begins and we see all of the world leaders come together right here. And in the following panel, so the meeting has begun. They say that Cobra, King of Alabasta, desires an audience with us. Which this is, before the reverie started, this is always speculated in the community, was, oh man, Cobra's going to get waxed. They're going to bring up the abolishment of the Shichibukai system. He's going to bring up the Void Sentry. 800 years ago, the Nefeltari dynasty was the sole bloodline of the first 20 to remain in the lower half. In other words, they are traitors. Has he caught on to something? Let us pray it does not derail the talks. especially with this discussion of Big Mom and Kaido. It has been 2 years since the Paramount War, and the rolling will not cease. The world's equilibrium cannot be maintained forever. The time has come for a great cleansing. You turn the panel, and you get the spookiest sequence in the history of this series, right? Right next to 906s, where you see Instant Messenger Sama. You get the Imu Sama. Someone has arrived, and you get like who? Emu who? Emu Instant Messenger Sama. Bro, I've gone back to this right here so many times. Luffy's got up, Piper's got up Shirahoshi. But Shirahoshi's the one that specifically has the blade going through. Instant Messenger Sama goes up to the throne that nobody should sit on. Sits on it, holding Vivi's poster. And you're like, bro, what is going on, dog? And you see the Goro say kneel to this individual. And everything that I had known about the series up to this point in time is just... Because, bro, of course, it had been foreshadowed before, right? We had speculated and seen, because they talked about a higher being above even them, right? And we talked about a higher, with Doflamingo whenever he was talking to Gecko Moria, and of course whenever Akainu was talking to the Gorosei, there always been this talk about higher being. But actually seeing this thing actually exists, and the fact that the Gorosei really aren't the highest power, truly, that someone is at the top, and actually getting the confirmation of this was huge, man. Have you decided upon another life to be erased from history, simply state the name you wish stricken? This is like the way you immediately give somebody clout, is in a chapter like this, man. The way it was executed was so brilliantly. Because you started off with the butterfly, where you're like, this person, because the butterflies usually, to me, either mean death or peace, right? Because of Bleach. So whenever I see Instant Messenger Sama holding there, like, oh, Flagnarts. And you turn the thing and you get to see the posters and the pictures all cut up, and Shirahoshi just has a thing through, and then Vivi, and you're like, this chapter made me reread good chunks of the series again. That is why this chapter is my favorite chapter of the year, because it changed just everything I had known about the series up until that point in time, and in a huge way. Because it's just one of those chapters that's gotten better and better for me as I've gone back and reread the series. And as things have gone on, you just see the implications of how huge this really was. With all the amazing chapters that came out last year, because last year was like 2010, where there was just like 10 chapters that were worthy chapter of the year. This one to me is the one that stood out the most. Was 908. And still remains one of my top 5 favorite chapters in the entire series. Just insane stuff. I love all the chapters. Yeah, last year was such a great year for One Piece, man. And like 902, like the entirety of this volume. This is one of the greatest volumes in the whole series. You have the end of Whole Cake, beginning of Wano, Reverie, and this is the whole beginning of Wano, man. All of Act 1, just in Blackbeard. Luffy versus Kaido. Kaido's gonna be the dragon. I didn't even get a chance to mention that, right? So many legendary moments that happened last year. Just a great year for One Piece. Great year. And then we move on to 2019. So once again, my 2018 chapter of the year was 908. Chapter 908. So then we get to last year, man. Now, this one was very difficult until I read the most recent chapter. Now, this is where it gets hard for me because... So I'm going to have 2 answers to this. Because if we count 967, it's 967 without question. I just had been waiting so long for Roger's story and his adventure. Anytime that I see anything with Roger, I may lose my mind. I mean, it's the thing I watch YouTube videos on the most. Just seeing more from Roger, bro. And the fact that we got an entire chapter dedicated to that, to the moment whenever he saw the One Piece. And he laughed. And just whenever you first read that panel, you're like, wow, bro, like this series is really ending. You see him talking to Tom, you see him talking to Neptune, the adventures around the world they had together. Such a beautiful chapter. Because I don't know whether it came out last year or this year, I'll just put it like this. If it came out last year, or if we say it came out last year, it's number 1 for sure. But when it came out in 2020, then I have another favorite chapter of the year to go with it. So 967 is favorite chapter of the year if it counts. But if it doesn't count, I have another one. But first, I gotta go through some honorable mentions first. Definitely 943. 943 was a huge one. 943 was, and of course I don't have the volumes because they haven't come out in English yet. But 943 was the chapter that ended with Sanji and Zoro in a legendary pose whenever they went to go save Toko. And everything that went down there right after Yasui's death. And you just see everything just going to Flagnar's. We just found out the truth about what Smile really was. And as everything's just going down here in the Flower Capital, we end off with that moment right there. And we finally get to the reunion between Sanji and Zoro. I was so hyped, man. I loved that chapter. I've gone back and reread that chapter so many times just to get the blood flowing. Great stuff. So definitely 943. 949, Luffy's, that was Luffy's chapter for me. Just, Luffy showing his role as a captain there and as an individual. You see his resolve right there, like stating, this ain't over yet, dog. We're gonna whoop Kaido. And the fact that he went through all of which he did in that chapter, which he should not have been able to survive any of that. And he survived all of that and kept going just to prove a point to everybody there so that they would be able to join his side. Using his special power and bringing up people to him in that chapter the way that he did. After that chapter, I was like, yo, Luffy, put me in the game, coach. I want to fight for you. And even more than I already do. There's a king level chapter that reminds me why Luffy's my favorite character in the story. Amazing chapter. And then we go over to the 2-chapter stretch of 956 and 957. And 957 was this close from beating out my chapter of the year, but I just... It was hard, but I feel like that it's tough, man. It's tough. Because then, all right, you know what? Let me talk about 956 first, and I'll talk about the next two, because I feel like the next two that are right next to each other. So 956, of course, we get to see the stuff we're still discussing. What happened with Sabo? What happened with Vivi? And why in the flying flat was everybody reacting the way that they were? And then at the end of the chapter, we get to see Shichibukai now free and ready to go up and like somewhere. We see Buggy with the trolling, which is absolutely hilarious. We got to see Weevil go out there. I did not think we were going to see Weevil until we saw him in Wano. We got to see Mihawk ready to pop off on anyone, and then we got to see Hancock. Like, yeah. Amazing stuff. You know what? I don't care. Because, for the sake of it, for 2019, I'm going to have 3. I'm going to have 3 because I can't pick it more time. Not like I said, but if 967 counts, that is for sure my number 1. Just know that. Now the next one is hard, so I'll talk about both of them, and then I might come to an answer after that. 957, titled Ultimate. That chapter was so phenomenal in terms of the information that it presented and showing us stuff I never thought we would ever see. The bounties of all the Embers and Roger and Whitebeard. And in the very same chapter, we get to find out the legend of Rocks and his crew. Confirmations that Whitebeard, Big Mom, and Kaido were all in his crew. And God Valley and the God Valley incident, Garp and Roger going up in like somewhere at God Valley against Rocks. And them being the cause behind what happened there. A place where celestial dragons are supposed to be and meet and slaves. And you're like, Flagnards, what is all of this? And it was just such a well put together chapter. It was insane, dude. The bounty reveals, and it's like, yeah. At the end of the chapter, like the connection to Odin, how Odin has a connection to all of this. And then the chapter that ties with that for me is 966, man. I mean, listen to me, bro. Now, you know what? I might have to put it slightly above 957, man. I might have to. And here's the reason why. It took everything I love about 957, but actually showed it to me. So yeah, 966 is my chapter of the year, I think. If it's not 967. Like I said, 967, if it counts, that's my favorite chapter of the year. If it doesn't count, it's 966. This is why. 957 I loved for hearing of the legends of Roger and Garp going up against Rocks, hearing more about Rocks, the God Valley incident, seeing all the bounties for the first time of these characters that I love so much. In 966, I saw, for the first time ever, a named attack by Roger. A named attack by Goldie Roger. A named attack against Odin. Then he and Whitebeard have a King's Hockey clash that destroys the galaxy. We get to see Roger, Whitebeard, and Odin sit down and have a talk. And in the very same chapter, we get to see Shanks and Blackbeard have a discussion. Shanks and Blackbeard as kids. Shanks, Buggy, and Blackbeard. And we get to hear about this supposed thing that Blackbeard has either twice the amount of lives, or he has twice the life into the theory, or I'm sorry, that's the theory. The fact that he never sleeps, so he must have twice the fun, right? So the fact that my man's Blackbeard never sleeps, going back into the whole thing of people's dreams never end, he's the biggest dreamer because he doesn't dream. And just going into that entire character theme and concept, I love it about it so much. It makes me love Blackbeard's character even more than I already do. And the fact that you had these central focuses on all these characters that make chapters for me a 40 out of 10. You have Blackbeard, you have Shanks, you have Whitebeard, you have Roger, bro. Roger chapter, bro. You have all those cute and wonderful panels with all of them on the crew together. Roger holding Hiyori and Rayleigh Momonosuke. And the amazing chapters of them adventuring together with him and Odin. They get to Skypiea, bro. Yeah, man, that's for sure. 966 is my favorite chapter of the year. If it's not 967. Because I love 957 so much, man. But 966 gave me so, bro. It gave me what I wanted. I wanted to see Roger so bad in his prime, just chilling. And the fact that we actually got to see him fighting. Like using an attack, clashing with Whitebeard. And the rest of the chapter was adventuring and, seeing him talk about Lodestar Valley and the fact that another island exists past that. The fact that he collected all the road poneglyphs. Just him conversating with Whitebeard and Odin. And he takes Odin with him because of the charisma that he has. Shanks and Blackbeard. And Roger going all the way up there to Skype. I mean, I just love that chapter, man. Amazing stuff. And then once again, if we include 967, that's right, without question, my number one of the year. Like I was saying before, just the implications to the end of the story. That Roger panel, whenever he looks at the One Piece, man, that incredible panel before that, whenever Odin is talking as he's writing and saying, we found out about everything, the Void Century, the Will of D, what the One Piece is, about the ancient weapons, and everything about the history of the world, with a vast treasure that is the One Piece. And everyone laughed. And right directly after that takes place, he names it Laugh Tale in honor of Joy Boy. He says, yo, Joy Boy, I wish I could have lived in your era. Second time in the chapter they reference him. In the first half, they're referencing him in terms of him being associated with the ancient weapons. Individually called them weapons. And then at the end of the chapter, he names Laugh Tale after everything he had just experienced. And just, the first page of the chapter going back to whenever Buggy first got his Devil Fruit, and it's North Pole, it's South Pole. Tom, Frankie, the Fishman Islands, Sabaody, and just the adventure on Roger's ship, bro. Just, there's nothing like it. I did not expect to get that much of it in this flashback, but the fact that we did, the fact that we saw everything that we did, without question, makes that chapter of the year for me. One of my favorite chapters in the entire decade, for sure. So once again, let's go ahead and run through it right there. I'm looking forward to now talking about it makes me want to do afterthoughts on it, which I most certainly plan on doing. But so here we are, 2010, chapter 598 is my chapter of the year, with honorable mentions for chapter 574, 576, 579, 580, and 597. 2011, my favorite chapter of the year is 650, no honorable mentions. 2012, my favorite chapter is 690, no honorable mentions. In 2013, my favorite chapter is 731, with honorable mention to chapter 730. In 2014, my favorite chapter was chapter 767, no honorable mentions. Chapter 200, in 2015, my favorite chapter of the year was 801, with honorable mentions to 783, 784, and 795. 2016, favorite chapter of the year is 844, with honorable mentions to 816 and 818. 2017, my favorite chapter of the year is 878, no honorable mentions. 2018, my favorite chapter of the year is 908, with honorable mentions to 902 or 895, 893, 902. 907, 906, 907, 903, 909, 923, 925. Might as well be the whole damn thing, right? But my favorite chapter of the year was 908. And then 2019, my favorite chapter of the year is either 967 or 966, with honorable mentions going to 943, 949, 956, and 957. So those are my favorite chapters of the decade for this legendary and incredible decade for One Piece. I cannot wait to see what this upcoming decade has in store for us. And I look forward to seeing all of your favorite chapters of the decade in the comments section down below. Please let me know what y'all or what your favorite chapters of the decade are, whether it be numbered. You don't have to do it like I did. You could just do your overall favorite chapters of the decade, or you could do it by year in the same way that I did. Whichever way that you end up doing it, I look forward to seeing your list in the comments section down below, and I definitely look forward to discussing chapter 967. You know what, bro? At this point, I might end up just discussing both in afterthoughts one of these days. Like both 966 and 966. I don't know what I'm gonna do, man. I want to talk about Roger. And so that's what I want to do, bro. I want to talk about Roger. So I'm probably gonna do that very, very soon. But for today, that is all for today, man. Favorite chapters of the decade. This was a lot of fun just to go back and look at all this awesome stuff taking place in this decade. So we'll see y'all next time. Have an awesome day. One Piece greatness. What an amazing decade, man. And to know that we might not have seen peak One Piece yet, with the incredible greatness that is about to hit us. What a decade we're about to enter, man. I can't wait. Y'all have a good one, man.